Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar. We have people flowing through and joining us, and so we're going to give it another minute or two. But if you are joining us already, just go ahead and throw into the chat box where you're dialing in from today. I'm here in sunny Southern California. Lee, how about you?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's a lovely, beautiful day.
And how's humidity, Lee?
It's a little humid, but it's all relative. I grew up on the Texas coast, so humidity is in my veins.
We got a lot of California representing,
Love it.
Chicago,
Some more Atlanta, Davis.
Charleston, Vegas.
All right, great group.
We got about 150 people in the room now. That'll probably double by the time we get started. I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, and I'm going to launch a poll. And I'd love to know from you what CRM you're using. Are you using RealScout for lead nurture? And no right or wrong answers here. This webinar is going to be valuable to you, whether you're on RealScout, whether you're not, whether you're using Follow Up Boss, whether you're not. But it looks like 80% of you are using Follow Up Boss. 75% of you are using RealScout for lead nurture. Some of you may be considering Follow Up Boss or RealScout. And if that's the case, you'll get a little more intel today on what the value of these products are all about. I'm also wearing my Follow Up Boss RealScout swag here, my Fub Scout t-shirt. And then we have some MoxieWorks represented. Great. All right, but mostly Fub and MoxieWorks. Interesting. And yeah, about two-thirds of you are on Real Scout, one third is not. All right, well, thanks for participating in that poll. We can go ahead and get started. And it's really great to see so many people on this webinar. I'm really excited to be hosting this with Lee Adkins, and we'll go into both Lee and my background in just a minute here. This is being recorded, and you will get the slides. I know we'll probably get that question another 10 or 20 times in the chat. That's okay. We will get you the slides, and we also have a special offer, a special gift that we're going to be giving everyone who is attending this live session. So today is all about mastering your database. And let me just make sure I got my notes up here. There we are. All right. So today's about mastering your database. We are going to be talking about how RealScout and Follow Up Boss, otherwise known as Fub Scout, Fub and RealScout, or sorry, Follow Up Boss and RealScout, come together for high performance teams. But we're going to be giving you some templates and some workflows that you're going to be able to adapt to whatever CRM and lead nurture system you use today. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes we'll talk about Follow Up Boss, we'll talk about RealScout, but that is also synonymous for whatever tools that you're using. If you're using MoxieWorks, if you're using some kind of other CRM or lead nurture, we've got you covered. So my name is Andrew Flachner. I am the CEO and co-founder of RealScout. It's so good to be with you today. I'm really excited about today's content. If you want to connect with me, keep this conversation going, scan the QR code. Would love to connect with you on LinkedIn or on Instagram or wherever it is that you want to get some tips and tricks on how to generate more transactions from your database. I have been in the real estate industry for many years now. I actually started selling real estate when I was in high school, believe it or not. And it was in that process of selling real estate that I realized that we need to do better with technology in this industry. So, founded RealScout 13 years ago. Today, RealScout is made available to, I don't know, over 100,000 of our customers. So, it's become one of the larger prop tech companies in the space. Some people are confused about, hey, is RealScout a website company? Are we a CRM company? What we do is lead nurture. So the way to think about RealScout is you can plug your CRM into our product, and then we will nurture your database so that you don't have to do as much heavy lifting. And today you're going to hear all about the ways that you can set much of this nurture on autopilot because we have one of the foremost experts in lead nurture systems automation. We have Lee Adkins. So Lee, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit on your background?
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for having me. Such a big fan of the product and how Follow Boss and Real Scout work together. Also was really honored to write this guide that everybody will get with along with the recording. We're going to cover a bit today, but you'll get a guide with some great easy buttons to set some of this up in your own account. In my background, I probably also got into real estate when you were in high school. I was not in high school at the time, but I've really worn every hat. I've been a solo agent. I've been a team member. 2012, I switched to running operations for a team here in Atlanta, which was kind of my sweet spot. I was like, I'm a details guy, but I love the real estate, but I love this piece of it. So really coming into that type of role of advising and what are we doing here was really my sweet spot. And so, focus now on just doing that for people at Amplified Solutions, whether it's setting up your account or helping keep agents accountable to what they're doing. So RealScout's a great partner tool because it's giving us behavioral signals that we can use those signals to then have better follow up, a little bit of automated follow up, but also want to emphasize that a human should follow up as well. But we're going to walk you through all that today. And again, thanks for having me. Super happy to be here and always great to talk with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here, Lee. And I'm happy to hear the word signal because I've been on a rant lately talking about how all success starts with a signal. And so you want to make sure you have a system that's going to generate signal, but then you need to know what to do with that signal and separate it from all the noise.
Right.
Before we kick things off, I'm going to do a shameless plug for my upcoming podcast. The Playmakers podcast goes live next week. We have some incredible conversations lined up with number one Wall Street Journal bestseller, bestselling author, executives from major brokerages and major teams. So if you are interested in learning more, just go to Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, search for Playmakers and subscribe. Would love for you to have a front row seat for these conversations. I just recorded the first episode yesterday in San Francisco, and I'm really excited to share with you who it is with. One hint is that he was called the number one most powerful person in real estate by T360. So it's a really spirited conversation. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. But back to the regularly scheduled programming. Today we're going to be talking about the challenge, the plague, the epidemic that this industry is facing when it comes to lead nurture. And what we're seeing is that a lot of agents out there, a lot of teams out there have a problem with lead leakage, right? This is where you have valuable leads that are sitting dormant in your database, in your CRM, collecting dust. And that is a problem because we know the level of follow-up with these contacts is inconsistent, and that leads to missed opportunities. It leads to a lot of manual effort, which doesn't happen. It creates these bottlenecks where the best case scenario is that you're just missing out on deals that are hiding in your pipeline. And the worst case scenario is that there are people who have expressed high intent that you are leaving in the lurch. And so if you can have a more systematic approach to surfacing these hot leads, which is what today's webinar is all about, you're going to generate more transactions. And the best part about generating these transactions is that you have to spend $0 in additional lead gen, right? So this is not a conversation about how you can go buy more leads. It's about how you can generate more leads with the investments you've already made, right? Because you've already established these relationships with the folks in your database. These are past clients, maybe they're leads that you purchased in the past, and now you can generate really high ROI if you're able to get these automations flowing. So by the end of today's webinar, there's a few things I want to make sure that you walk away with. First off, you're going to get 7 high converting email templates specifically designed for RealScout and Follow Up Boss, but that would work for any CRM and lead nurture system. And then we're all about doing things for you, doing the hard work for you. And so Lee has gone to incredible lengths to make sure that you have these automation setup instructions. There's a video tutorial. There's one-click enabling of some of this stuff to make it really easy for you to get value immediately. And then there's an ROI focused implementation guide so that you can measure success. And I got a little preview of that earlier. It's really, really cool. And then 4 essential smart lists that you can build out in your CRM so that you can know who to focus on, right? And separate the signal from the noise. So today, we're not going to be talking about theoretical concepts. These are battle-tested templates that have been used by the top teams in the US who are using FubScout, Follow Up Boss, and RealScout. And we have a special offer for those who are watching here that you don't want to miss. We're going to talk about that at the end of today's session. So every contact in your database, every single contact represents potential revenue, right? But without a system to identify and engage the most promising leads, what you find is that that potential remains untapped. And especially in a slow market, it is absolutely critical that you are able to generate more transactions without having to spend more money. And so, the average database is around 2,000 contacts. And actually, I'm curious if you can drop in the chat box how many leads or how many contacts you have in your CRM It's okay if you're a little bit smaller, maybe you have 200 or 100. Oh wow, 3,000, 17,000, 16,000. Okay, wow. So a lot of the people on this call actually have a larger than average database, which means you have even more revenue, more GCI hiding in your database than the average agent.
And
So
they
you should,
know it. I want to give props to people that answered as you were still speaking. That's very impressive.
yeah, that's actually a good point. I mean, some people don't know how many contacts they have in their database, and some people do, and a lot of the people on this call do. But only 10 to 15% of the people in your database are engaged in a meaningful way, right? And don't forget that the majority of your business is going to come from the smallest sliver of your database, right? You just don't know which part of your database, right? So it might be that 80% of your business is coming from 20% of your database, but what 20% is it? That's what we're going to help you identify today. So every unengaged contact is a missed commission, a missed opportunity, and today we're going to fix that. Um, so, here's what fascinates me about the database potential is that every single contact that you've added is a real person who at some point raised their hand and said they want to work with you. Right? Think about that. Like the hard part has already been done. You've already established trust with this contact. And how many of those contacts are receiving market updates from you right now? How many of those contacts are receiving updates on what their home is worth or what new listings are hitting the market? I mean, just think about it. How many, maybe even throw it in the chat box. I'm curious, honestly, how many of your contacts, what percentage of your contacts are receiving regular updates, not from Zillow, not from Realtor.com, not from Homes.com, but from you about what their home is worth, their market activity, etc. All right, we got some honest people here. 1%, not enough. Andrea says 100%, so maybe she's already using Follow Up Boss and Real Scout. All right, so listen, today is all about helping you unlock more transactions from your database, and I don't want to get in the way of some of these insights. I will just give you a quick overview on how this works, right? So RealScout and systems like it have integrations with your MLS. And what's unique about RealScout is that in most of the markets we operate, we have these really deep integrations with your MLS, not IDX feeds, but in many markets, what's called a VOW feed. So it's going to have more accuracy. It's going to have quicker alert to inbox timelines. It's going to have more criteria that you can search for. And what we do then is then we send out listings and market activity and home valuation data. And then we are able to pick up on signal, right? Is somebody looking at the same property 3 times in a row? Is somebody curious about what their home is worth and how that's changing, given all that's happening in the economy? And once we do that effectively, then this is where Lee, takes the stage. We can then automate some of that follow up, right? You can put them on action plans. You can put those contacts on SmartLists so you know who to focus on. That is what RealScout is all about. And we've been doing this for many years, right? We have tens of thousands of customers and tens of thousands of Fub Scouts or thousands of Fub Scouts. And, this is a quote from an LPT agent. We just launched a partnership for LPT Plus. But what made RealScout a no-brainer for him was how it integrates with his CRM, which happens to be Follow Up Boss. And we implemented a ton of seller nurture features a couple of years ago, and that was a perfect fit for this agent, Mike's business. So it's a three-step approach. And then I'm going to pass the mic over to Lee. It's a three-step approach. First, you want to attract these clients, right? Now, you may have already attracted them. They're in your database. Maybe you attracted them through your website or you bought leads through a portal. But once you attract them, then it's all about nurture. And the idea here is if you can set it and forget it, it's even better, right? If you can make sure that, the answer is in this chat box saying, oh, 1% or 5% or 10% of my contacts are getting nurtured, that's a problem, right? Because 100% of your contacts should be getting nurture in one form or another. And then finally, you want to understand how to convert those leads. So let's take a look at these proven templates that Lee has crafted. Lee, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours. And I know Lee's put a lot of time into prepping for today's presentation and writing the ebook with our team. So I think you're going to get a lot of value. So Lee, off to you.
Excellent. Yeah. So really looking forward to this. Let me make sure I share the appropriate screen before I get too crazy here. But yeah, love in just such again, just want to kind of even reiterate what Andrew said as far as you see my slides now? Am I good there? Okay, perfect. Just to kind of reiterate what Andrew said, I mean that signal thing is so important because more than ever, we're nurturing a database over a long period of time. And it's not always the new leads. It used to be more of a new leads game. There's some stats around lead ratio of leads generated to number of homes sold, and it continues to be very out of balance as we've gotten good, and a lot of companies have gotten good at generating leads. But to me, it's always more interesting to have people in your database who are taking behavioral action. And there's a number of ways to do that. RealScout is definitely an easy button to do that, whether you're using auto nurture or you're manually adding contacts to RealScout. Another thing that's amazing about RealScout that I learned somewhat recently that people may not know, with the integration with Follow Boss, RealScout is pulling any sort of activity that's in Follow Boss. It's not just RealScout activity. And this really helps RealScout to hone these searches. Another story I've told a lot is I have a couple of friends and clients who have just put me on their RealScout drips. I don't even live in their market. And I actually open the emails. The subject lines are super compelling. The information in them are super compelling. So I'm looking at houses in Virginia and Tampa and all over. I just think the emails are so super engaging. But that's where it's at now. Put out information that brings people back to your site or back to RealScout or back to where they're going, or to get that behavioral activity so that you can follow up. One last thing before we dive into the template content. This is obviously, in a perfect world, we wanted to give you an easy button, but this is also very much designed for you to be able to tweak this for your market, for your business, for what you want to say. But these certainly work out of the box. And so when you get the guide along with this recording, they're easy buttons, they're automations in Follow Boss for you to get this actual setup. So when, for example, RealScout pushes tags back into Follow Boss that are based on behavioral activity of that contact. One of those tags is called RealScout HVA viewed, HVA being home value. So when your client, or when you send out this automatic email that's going out on the cadence you set it to go out, when someone engages with that, you want to know, right? This is important. So number one, we've got a smart list that's going to pull all these in. We'll get to the smart list at the end. But the idea is that we want to be able to send out something automated when this happens, but we also need to follow up. I want to be super clear. An email template is not going to sell a house. It may get a response. When you call them, they may go, oh, hey, thank you for sending our home value every month. No one's going to reply to this email and say, hey, send me over a buyer brokerage agreement. Or in this case, it would be a listing, obviously, on the seller side. But so we've got this template. It goes out. The subject is thank you for checking your home valuation with us. Follow Boss uses merge codes if you're not a user. So these merge codes will automatically pull in the contact's first name as well as the sender name. This is important if you run a team. It's important that the email comes from the sender, the assigned contact in essence. But this all plugs in for you automatically. So these should work globally across your account. I'm not going to read it to you. You can read it. Again, if you're not a Follow Up Boss user, you can literally just copy this template and paste it into your own system. But these are designed to automatically fire via an automation when someone gets that tag applied, meaning they viewed their home value. So again, we're trying to tee up a call for you here. We hope that someone replies and says, hey, can we talk at 3? But again, this is where the human follow-up comes in to make that happen. But clicks and opens in these emails are also really important signals to be able to follow up with somebody, also with really intelligent information. There's someone on the call too, I just want to mention this is a little off script, who will go in and actually tweak these for people and send them a personalized message that says, hey, I went in and tweaked your home value because I know you guys have new countertops or you finished the basement or something to that effect. So again, designed as an easy button, but also this is not totally set it and forget it. You still got to contact these leads. So in the name of time, I'm going to keep trucking. For buyers, property saving signals, there's 2 ways to do this in Follow Up Boss, and it's very clear in the guide. There's this single property trigger that's going to essentially send out, and we wanted to put the address in the subject. That's very compelling for people to open. They literally just looked at this property. Now they're automatically getting an email with the subject that says more information on that property you just viewed. The greeting time merge code in Follow Up Boss is super handy and super great. This will say good morning if it's morning. It'll say good afternoon or good evening, depending on what time it actually is sent. Again, addresses the contact by first name. Would you like more information on this property? This also puts a really pretty card type of widget into the email. So it's very compelling. It's got an image. It has the first part of the headline about the property. It also offers to schedule a showing. So we've also got, oh, it's actually not in here. I'll just mention it. We've got a secondary template to that that'll send the last 5 properties that they viewed. So if 5 is more valuable to you to say, hey, you want to go see any of these, you can click that button. If you want the single one, just click that button. These also, I don't want to go into detail on this. It's in the guide. These also have conditions in the automations in Follow Up Boss, so they're not just going to fire every time someone looks at a property. But please watch the associated videos that explain how you can modify that to make it work for you. And then, of course, an open house request. When someone requests in RealScout to attend an open house that's available to them, we want to be able to follow up and send them information. Again, immediately, even if you're out at a showing or you're in another appointment or you're hanging out with your family. But again, this requires manual follow-up. If someone says, hey, I'm interested in this open house, you should not let them go to the open house and meet the listing agent. You should certainly follow up with them. And then the SmartList implementation. I'm going to go a little bit into Follow Up Boss, but I don't want to get too crazy on this. We've also got an important activity smart list. There's a video in the guide that shows you how to make this smart list, and it's incredibly simple. It's essentially an automation that applies a tag to any of these behavioral things that happen in RealScout. So it's going to give you a simple smart list of only the people that have engaged in your RealScout in the last 7 days. Super, super important. Again, to Andrew's point, like this is where the magic is. And I need to edit this. We actually, we have it sorted by last activity. So even if you have 1,000 people in this list, if you start calling at the top, you're going to be hitting the most recent people that have been active. This is a huge opportunity to do this. And again, we've got videos that show you how to build these simple smart lists. We're not able to share them via a link, but the guide has videos on exactly how to build these step by step, and it's quite easy. So we've got that important activity. Obviously, new leads are still important. We don't want to miss those. The nurture smart lists are going to be people that are in a nurture stage that have taken behavioral activity. And the RealScout ROI smart list. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about this? I know we just talked about it briefly. Was pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I'll share my thoughts on it. So basically, Lee thought it'd be cool to put together a smart list that shows you of the deals that have closed, how many of them had interactions with RealScout to give you a better idea of the role that RealScout is playing in accelerating your pipeline. And I think it's just really brilliant because oftentimes companies try to hide this type of information because they have low ROI. But I'm excited that this is going to be out there for everyone to see because a lot of people who enable RealScout with their CRM are seeing that, hey, wow, like this client looked at this many properties on RealScout before they ended up buying, so or selling, right? I mean, it works for the seller tags as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and props to Andrea Gill as well. She actually came to me with the idea, and I was like, how do we do this? So the concept of it, and again, this is in the guide. The concept of it is include the stages that matter to you for this: closed, pending, past client, whatever you use. We've got the columns added to see if they were auto nurtured in RealScout. And then we've also got the link right to RealScout. You can just hop in. How much did they engage? Was it a RealScout email that got them to reply for an initial showing or to get the appointment? Again, really simple stuff, but really powerful to be able to go back and measure, what part did RealScout play in this closing and how did my agent interact with the client as well through that. So pretty excited about that. But again, you guys will get videos in the guide that show you exactly how to build all of this. We'll also share a link if you want to connect with our company for a free assessment of your follow-up boss. So implementation methods, the way we've set this up is, and this is all in the guide, the way we've set this up is that some of this you're going to want to do potentially a little more manually, maybe run 1 or 2 of these at a time, get a feel for it, kind of tweak them, kind of be iterative. I know some of you are like me and you want to be nerdy and A/B tested and moved some stuff around. But we also have included an easy button in the guide where you literally just click the templates and automations. Click one more click to install it in your Follow Up Boss account. Make sure you turn it on if you're ready to run it, and then you're good to go. So it's really super simple, and that was the point. But if you want to get a little nerdier and kind of tweak the language and tweak how they work, we've also provided that information. So, and I believe with that, I will turn it back to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Lee. I'm going to share my screen here one more time. And it looks like we're running a little ahead of schedule, which is nice. But we'll have time for some Q&A. So let me go back to my notes here. We wanted to make sure that we put together a webinar that was actionable. And with that, we wanted to give everyone on this call an ebook that we put a lot of time into building. Lee and his team contributed a lot to this, but you have these 7 ready to use email templates. You have the direct automation install links, which is just really slick. Great way to get started. And then the step-by-step implementation instructions, the SmartList setup tutorials, and best practices. And before I share a special offer, which I think is really generous on behalf of Lee, I want you to really think about your database in this new way we've been talking about, right? Every single contact represents a potential transaction, not just today, but maybe in the future. So the question isn't whether or not the client is going to buy or sell, right? It's about if you will be the agent they think of when they do. And this strategy that we covered today ensures that you stay top of mind, and it shows exactly uh, who's ready to move forward with you at any given time. And so before we wrap up today, I want you to really think about your database in this way. And we talked earlier about how many contacts you have in your database right now. And the people that responded in the chat, I mean, I think the average person in this webinar probably has thousands of people in their database right now. And how many of those contacts are getting the nurture that you think they should right now? When I say nurture, I mean nurture from you, because a lot of these people are being nurtured by national portals and other websites. But how much of that nurture is coming from you? Home value alerts, personalized listing alerts that match their exact preferences, delivered using natural language. Probably not as many as you would like, right? So if you had your contacts on auto nurture, receiving content that they actually want to engage with, do you think that would help catch more deals falling through the cracks? Would it surface deals that have been neglected or forgotten? And so when those contacts are clicking through on RealScout and giving you clear signal, like Lee was talking about, um, would you follow up with them? Right? I think it's a real question for the people on this call, right? I just talked to a team lead yesterday who's incredibly busy and overwhelmed. Like when you have all this signal coming from your database, will you follow up with them manually? For many, the answer is no. It's just too much to manage. If you have 17,000 people in your database, like I saw someone in the chat earlier, and you have all this signal coming in and all this noise coming in, are you really going to pick up the phone? Are you really going to send a handwritten, email or text message? You want to, because those are the highest value activities that you can do in your business, but it requires some automation. And that's why we created this comprehensive ebook with all the 7 email templates and the implementation guides. So everyone who registered today is going to get a copy of that. But if you are interested in RealScout to do this for you, we are working with thousands of agents, and we know that having the templates is just the first step. The real transformation happens when you implement them correctly in your specific business. And if you'd like to see exactly how RealScout can work with your unique database and your unique team structure, I'd encourage you to book a demo with one of our strategy consultants, somebody on our team who can walk you through it, somebody who can look at your database, and they'll show you precisely how to implement everything that we've discussed today in your specific business. So just scan the QR code on the screen to schedule a demo, and don't let another day go by without these valuable opportunities being opportunities that you can convert, right? They're hiding in your database. Let's turn your database into a deal making machine, right? Starting today. So with that, I'm going to, also pass it off to Lee to talk about his special offer, which is super generous. Lee?
Yeah, so we offer a Follow Up Boss assessment. It's totally free. You can scan the QR code on the screen. We'll take a look at your Follow Up Boss account, suggest areas for improvement, or hey, this is great, keep doing that. Things like, hey, you've got 10,000 people that aren't being nurtured. Maybe you should add this tag to them or get this system that magically surfaces people that do things. But would be honored to do an assessment for you. It's totally free. It's also something you can even do over time. We have people who will do it and then come back 3 months later and say, "Hey, I made some changes." Obviously, there'd be an opportunity for us to help you do some of these things if you were interested in that. But truly want to be able to give you guys a free assessment, even if it's something you do periodically, and just say, "Hey, I went from an 8 to a 9 in the last year because I watched all these great webinars." So would love to do that. And be sure you check the chat and also grab a demo with RealScout if you're not a user. But just love how the systems work together. And I love how we're kind of in the middle, making sure that people have the systems working together so they can catch these behavioral signals.
Thanks, Lee. So we have some great questions coming in the chat, and I'm gonna just take one of them that I see here. How does RealScout work with listing leads and HomeBot? Well, let me start with listing leads because Jimmy Mackin is a dear friend, and I just did one of these webinars with him last week. And the thing about listing leads that I've always thought was just, it's almost uncanny how well listing leads works with RealScout because a lot of the listing leads scripts, they just beg for a RealScout follow-up. Let me give you an example, right? I mean, Jimmy Mackin made famous the idea of a ZMA, right? Where you take a screenshot of someone's Zestimate, you text them and say, "Hey Lee, Zillow thinks your home is worth $1 million. Since a few years ago, it looks like you've built a few 100,000 in appreciation or in equity. Do you want to know? I want to know your opinion, and I have mine too." And that's a great hook, right? But how do you keep that person engaged for the months to follow? You follow that up with something that says, "Hey Lee, I know I sent you a copy of your Zestimate, but how about this? I can send you a Zestimate every single month, along with another value estimate, along with the recent sales in your neighborhood." So that's just one example, but there's also listing leads templates about, the deal of the week. And hey, here's a home that I think you would like. Well, why not send a link to RealScout? So as soon as that client receives that link, they can start clicking around, they can create listing alerts, and they can get into your flywheel. So works really great with listing leads. We have a great relationship with Jimmy and the team over there. When it comes to HomeBot, there are some of our customers that run RealScout and HomeBot concurrently, but what's more common is that people will choose one or the other. And I posted a link in the chat just a couple minutes ago, HomeBot versus RealScout. One of our customers, Chase Whitney, actually put the two products side by side to test them and found, a higher conversion with RealScout. So we do offer home value alerts as part of our product, and so I would say choose your favorite product. If it's HomeBot, go with HomeBot. If it's RealScout, go with RealScout.
Yeah, that's great advice. They obviously, in that sense, do that. But Real Scout, certainly you've got the home values, you've got market reports, you got specific buyer reports. And again, that's why we did some of these templates because those are different things, right? You need to follow up in a different way. It's not just a, "Hey, I'm just checking in," or, "Hey, I saw you were on my website." It's and it's giving you intel. Again, you know, we always joke that people look at the notes in Follow Boss to figure out why to not call somebody. But it's pretty hard to look at Real Scout and say, "Look, this guy has looked at this property 7 times." It shouldn't be that difficult for someone to contact them and just have a conversation around, obviously don't say, "Hey, I can see you've looked at this property 5 times. Hey, would you like to go see some other homes in this area?" Whatever it is relative to the other notes you've got. Hey, they're looking at a higher price point. Now they're looking at homes with pools. Now they're looking at fixer-uppers, and they told me they didn't want a fixer-upper. Using that intel as a human, you will always win over AI. We're not getting into an AI conversation here by any means, but that's the difference. And those are the people that survive the market changes.
Yep, well said, Lee. Um,
Some of these we cannot read in the comments, but thank you guys for your comments. I mean, we cannot read them out loud. Um,
how do you segue over to RealScout if you're already using HomeBot? Yeah, it's a pretty easy export import situation, and our team can help with that. Support at realscout.com if you're a current customer.
I want to double down on that. We've helped a number of people move over. It's an incredibly great process. Real Scout will essentially handle it for you as long as you've got your data out of whatever your old system is. Uh, the team does a great job of intaking those, and also helping you figure out if should they be auto nurtured or are you guys going to manually add a tag to get people going.
There's a question about Ylopo and Fellow and RealScout. How do they differ? I don't know if we have enough time on this conversation to go feature by feature. I will say that those are great products, and we have a lot of mutual customers with both of those companies. In fact, I just posted a link into the chat box about Ylopo and RealScout. You'll notice that the biggest, most prominent Ylopo customers are also RealScout customers, whether it's Kenny Trong or Anthony Lamacchia, Anthony Dijon, Mike Novak, Robert Slack. And what we find is that, a lot of people use Ylopo for top of funnel lead gen, right? Maybe they have PPC or retargeting. But when it comes to that middle of funnel lead nurture, where you want the high quality VOW type property search and the quick alerts and the home value alerts, a lot of people will favor Real Scout for that piece of the funnel. So these two products work nicely as complements to one another. I know that Ylopo has some things that they're working on with their AI chatbot Raya that will interact with Real Scout in some ways. And then Fellow, great product, and really one of the category leaders when it comes to seller nurture. So Fellow does do seller nurture, and there's probably some overlap with Real Scout on that front. But keep in mind, Fellow does absolutely no buyer nurture. And so it's not uncommon for some of our customers to use Fellow for seller nurture and Real Scout for buyer nurture. And then Andrea Gill just posted in the chat box a link to schedule a demo with Real Scout. And so did Chris with Amplified. Other
Oh, we
questions?
got a couple of Q&A questions. Let me hop in. Oh, they were just the okay. No, we're good on those. Somebody just asking for the QR code again. So, and just to be super clear, so these are two different QR codes. This is the one for the Follow Boss assessment. We'll let everybody hang on that for a second. And then there's another one. That's for the Real Scout. It's for a demo, correct? Do you know, Andrew, what the Real Scout QR code?
That's right. Yep, for a
Okay.
demo. Yeah, the ebook is gonna be delivered to everyone's inbox, so no need to request that. And then somebody was asking for the Ylopo link again. This is just a landing page that showcases some of Ylopo and Real Scout's mutual customers, some of the success stories. Some of you may be familiar with Travis Halverson, for instance. He says that adding Real Scout into the mix of Ylopo and Follow Up Boss can supercharge your database. So a lot of really great references and testimonials from people who use both products. For Follow Up Boss monthly cost, I would recommend just Googling it. They have a pricing page that's available, but there's some detail about the auto dialer and things like that. So it depends on what package you want to purchase.
Great. We have a couple of other. So one other question. We tackled this, but somebody asked about does Real Scout do buyer and seller nurture? Yes, it does, as well as market reports, which obviously can work for either. And somebody asked I don't want to get too deep in this, it's a little technical, but it's a great question. Using, they said home value widget. There is a home value widget, which is fantastic. You can add that to your website. It's a newer feature, very cool. Also, be sure to check out templates in Real Scout, but that's not what this webinar is about. But somebody asked about sending the home value or maybe even the market report to expires. I think that's a great idea. You should follow any and all of your local rules and opt in and opt out rules. But certainly, I think dripping on expireds or for sale by owners or something like that with a home value or market value is certainly a great strategy.
Yeah, and I think one way to pivot that strategy, obviously you don't want to be soliciting any listings that are represented by other realtors, but one thing you could do is do some farming with Real Scout. And it's not part of this webinar, but why not suggest a cool little tip and trick here. What you can do is you can convert your What's My Home Worth landing page, which comes with your Real Scout account, into a QR code. And that QR code can be printed on postcards. It can be delivered, to the folks in your geographic farm. But it's a great way to get the top of your funnel filled, right? We talked earlier about attract, nurture, and convert. The attract piece comes in so many different flavors. One of those flavors is to, canvas your neighborhood with QR codes saying, hey, do you want to keep track of what homes are selling in your neighborhood? All right. Well,
Totally that great. All
I
right,
think
beautiful.
we've,
So, and
yeah,
Abigail, yes, is the answer. I think Chris may have answered you in the chat, but yes is the short answer.
and if we didn't answer your question, it's not, we weren't intentionally ignoring you. There's just a lot of activity in the chat box. So please just paste it again and we'll try to get to it. And then we'll wrap things up in just a few minutes, right on time. Yeah, it's great to see all the fans of Lee and his team.
Yeah, thank you guys for all the kind. You're making me blush over here. And I'll drop a link. Somebody asked about the Follow Up Boss monthly cost. I'll drop a link just to the Follow Up Boss site as well. You can check out all of that info. And I host their office hours, so unfortunately, you may see a lot of videos of me if you're hanging around some of the Follow Up Boss stuff. But yeah, so drop the link to that. It's got their pricing and all that. I do want to mention super quick. There is a little tiny segment in the guide where I do go through the Follow Boss RealScout integration and some recommendations on whether to do auto nurture or just add contacts, some of those quick settings in there. And support can obviously help you with that directly at RealScout as well. But just wanted to mention that. So, and yes, we'll send out the recording, the template guide, all kinds of good stuff, as well as the next upcoming RealScout session.
Yeah, one question or a comment question from Barbara about the home value alerts generating maybe values that are too low for the area. I think I understand your question. I just want to be really clear that the home value alert actually provides two automated valuation models, which is a fancy way of saying, algorithm generated pricing. And one of them is the Zestimate, right? And I think that actually differentiates RealScout against maybe HomeBot, which doesn't include the Zestimate. We think it's really important to include the Zestimate because Zillow is a verb and your clients are going there with or without you, but then put it next to another value estimate. And the reason we do that is to create some curiosity or some almost confusion with the consumer because you don't want to indicate to a consumer that this one estimate is accurate, right? You want to do the opposite. You actually want to say that, hey, you're going to go to Zillow with or without me. So here's this estimate. Here's this other value estimate. And by the way, every algorithm is going to have their own opinion. And you should reach out to a real estate professional to make sense of the market. And that's what the home values alert is all about. So if you look at the numbers and you think, well, these numbers aren't quite accurate, that's kind of the point, right? The point is that if you want an accurate assessment of your home's value, reach out to a qualified real estate professional who can help you make sense of the market. That's why we include two value estimates. So we don't want them to be wildly off base, but I think in most cases people, are familiar with the Zillow brand and they're going to go there with or without you. So with that, with 2 minutes to spare, I think we did a good job staying on time for today. Hopefully everyone got value out of the session. Just so we know if this created value for you and your business and we should produce more content like this, do you mind just giving us some comments in the chat box so our team knows if we're on the right track or not? And with that, the best way to reach out to you, Lee, or to keep up with you, follow up with you?
Yeah, you can find me on social. I'll drop my email address in the chat as well. Although Chris on my team dropped hers, and you probably want to talk to her instead of me, but I dropped mine there. And anywhere on social, I'm not on social a ton, but you find me there, connect with me, drop me a message. I'll answer within a day or two. But yeah, and I also just want to say, really, I love the content you guys are doing. I'm a little biased because you asked me to do it, but I know of the other things that are coming. Really, really impressed that you guys have leaned into this and providing great content for free, just around using these systems. And also, to your point, you don't have to have RealScout or Follow Up Boss for this to be valuable. And we certainly hope that it was.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank everyone who's involved in producing this webinar on the Amplified Solutions side, Chris, Lee, and then on the RealScout side, Amanda, Alice, Seth. Thank you so much for all the hard work in making this happen. It was great to see hundreds of people on the call today and excited to drive more value in your database. So with that, we're going to sign off, but thanks everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.